All right, I'm here. So I just got some new settings on YouTube. And I know a lot of people probably don't know the whole YouTube thing and how all that works, but I'm trying a few things. Oh, look at that. I have the wrong camera on this thing. I never changed it. Hang on one second. Let me just add this thing real quick. There. Okay. Oh, let me fix it. This was like the only screen I didn't mess with because everything was already working pretty well. So, not that it matters. I've been working on this all morning because I got the whole new vertical stream thing going, where I can actually send my own screen to YouTube and for the shorts. So my vertical shorts now works to where I am actually sending my own screen. So this is what we got going on today. All cameras are working, but now that I just lost 30 minutes because I wanted to start at 2, I'm sure something's gonna die because I know one's on battery and one is finicky, and it might be, I can't remember now, I think it's my my actual forward camera here for the setup. So I'm kind of going in a new direction. I know that I've been doing YouTube for a while now, and I've just been really playing around and having fun with it. And so in doing all this YouTube stuff, I've done crazy stuff. I've done lives that have been totally disaster. I've done lives that are okay, and I've done, you know, green screen lives. I've done lives. I've done videos. I kind of do a little bit of everything now. So because I do a little bit of everything, you know, my views and my subscribers and all that kind of stuff, it kind of, it really was never my goal was to get a bunch of subscribers or a bunch of views or anything like that. It was really just because I love doing video. So just checking, still excellent. So, you know, yeah, I'm an older guy, you know, I'm almost 60. And maybe you remember the cartoon, Popeye the Sailor Man. You know, some of you people are probably old enough to know who Popeye was and all that kind of stuff. And last week, something just like slapped me upside the head. And I just was watching videos. I've been watching more and more videos. You know, it's summertime and there's so many videos out there. And what started happening was I just was like, Popeye, I've had all I can stand. I can't stand no more. And that whole phrase has just kind of stuck with me all my life because, you know, as a kid growing up, that was just one of those great, you know, lines and all that kind of stuff. And with YouTube lawn care people, I just had all I can stand. I can't stand no more. There's just so much bad information, you know, misleading people into buying products, you know, following marketing, you know, things and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going a whole new direction. You know, I've been studying and learning a lot about, you know, growing grass and all that kind of stuff, and, you know, the science behind it. And, you know, not necessarily just the science and the research, but just the basic science of grass growing. Because I really got interested in it once, you know, I started learning that, you know, all these products I used to add because I was watching YouTube and I was buying all these products, and I had, you know, 12 different bottles of fertilizer in my garage here. And I was like, you know, in a frantic, if I ran out of something, I'm like, oh my God, I got to have this. I got to, you know, apply this right now and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go in the new direction here, and I'm going to start talking a lot more about explaining to people where I'm coming from in all my information and what I've learned, what I know. You know, when I talk to you know, people about, you know, the different, you know, reasons why I don't agree with something somebody says, like maybe about watering or maybe about applying, nutrients, whatever the case may be, cutting, heights, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it really drives me crazy. The mowing stuff about, oh, you can't grow short grass. If you're going to grow short grass, you're going to have weeds and you're going to have all these problems and you're going to scalp your lawn. You're going to do all this kind of stuff. And I just realized that, there's an exception to all rules. There's a way that you can go about doing whatever it is you want to your lawn. And I'm not the greatest grass grower. I mean, I never ever said that I was the greatest grass grower. I have a putting green. It's mowed at 1.6 millimeters. And, I just got this new tool right here. And I'm just gonna talk about this briefly because, I saw a video, and this was probably the only helpful video I've seen in, I don't know how many months. But this video here, this guy, he did a video and he had this measuring gauge and he put it on his yard, and he was measuring his putting green at like 1.35 or 1.4 or something like that. I'm sorry, 0.4. It was like almost a half of an inch, 0.4, 0.3, a third of an inch, and it was through this prism here. And I was like, oh, I forgot about the prism. I need to get a prism, I need to measure my green because I've always wondered how short am I cutting my grass. And here from, top to bottom, the top picture is what it was after I cut the grass. That's weird. I wonder if my screen went blank. So the top picture, oh, it's a different camera. That's why. I'm going to add a camera real quick. No, I'm not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Anyways, the top view is after I mowed my putting green. And, I talk about mowing it at 1.6 millimeters and 2 millimeters and all that kind of stuff. And, I don't know how well you can see these lines here. I know my pointer doesn't show to you, but, we got the 5 millimeter line right here, kind of a right center of the screen. And then you have the grass cut down here. Now, I know this isn't the evenest cut because, I have a McLean greenskeeper, and it's not no professional Pro Action mower or anything like that. It's like the cheapest greenskeeper mower you can get. And I've had to modify it to be able to cut this low. And so I bring this up because I was surprised to see that, I feel like I have a pretty good cut. It's a nice clean cut. The bottom is my Kentucky bluegrass, the bottom prism picture. And I was actually really surprised at the cut that I was getting. The backlapping worked on my blade because I'd taken some pictures before of my grass blades after mowing and they were kind of torn. So I feel like my bed knife and everything is set pretty good. I realize that this greens mower is never going to be a Pro Action golf course greenskeeper type mower. But look at how low that cut is. And you know what? I'm not showing it to brag or anything. The McLean greenskeeper is supposed to mow to 3 millimeters. Okay, that's what they sell it for. I've had to modify it so I can get it that low. And I've further modified it so I can go as low as I can. And so this here is 1.6 mil, which is 0.06. Most golf courses are cut at 0.1. And the only reason I do this is not because I'm trying to be some badass, grass grower, putting green guy, none of that stuff. That's not the reason why. I actually have a video of some putting at the end. My Kentucky bluegrass, about 6 millimeters, 7 millimeters. Even that cut is really, really good. And it's at the bottom of the screen here. So I just wanted to show that because, I was always interested in finding out, first, how good a cut I'm getting, and second, how low am I actually cutting? I have the measuring gauge that, dials everything in perfectly and all that kind of stuff. So I was really happy about that. So enough about this kind of pre-stuff. I wanted to show you kind of what I have going on here. Putting green, I got my drone here. I was going to show some drone action here. I don't know if I'll get to it or not. And let's see, I think I have, yeah, and there's another shot. This is the camera that I think is going to go out because it's only running on battery, and I've already had it on for over 50 minutes. So that battery is not going to last forever. Anyways, let's see here. I've got my backyard. I've got my Bermuda grass in my backyard. I have that going. It's looking great. You know, I was hoping to cut it down to like 4 mil, something like that, cut it as low as possible. And then my reality is that I just don't have the time to do all these different cutting heights, you know, with the putting green, with the Kentucky bluegrass and the Bermuda grass in the back. I just don't have time when I mow, you know, 2-3 times a week right now. I barely have enough time to mow both putting green and Kentucky bluegrass in the front yard after I get home from work. So I just can't, I couldn't keep up with it. I really wanted to cut it low, but I just can't do it. I just don't have enough time in the day. So I let it grow back out, and it's looking really good. That's actually cut the same height right now as the Kentucky bluegrass. I'm just cutting 2 heights right now. But I am running 3 different types of grass. I'm in Western Washington. So the Bermuda grass, I really like the Bermuda grass, but if it didn't go dormant in the wintertime and turn all brown, I will grow more of that. But you know what? I just have that right now just as kind of something to do, something to have. So that's kind of what I have going on in my yard. I'm in the middle of a tenacity project or application process where I'm working on getting bent grass out of my putting green. And I'm going to show a mow video while I'm talking about a bunch of new things and things I want to discuss and get into moving forward and doing some educational stuff. You know, I want to teach guys, you know, why it is that you need to stay away from all these really expensive products. And I actually have a comparison test that I'm going to be in the process of doing probably in a week, and I'll be doing it for about 6 weeks, and then I'll have some results. And it's going to be a complete start to finish, you know, thing. I'm not going to do it week to week or anything like that. I'm going to do time-lapse video. I'm going to do all these different things to try to educate people on a couple of different things with products they're using and things like that. You know, why you're getting scammed. You know, show you how you're getting scammed. Show you what the BS is. Because that's really important to me, because I don't care whether you buy the products, you know, and you use them. I just want to make sure that you understand what you're doing to your lawn is not as necessary as you're led to believe. And this comes from that Tips for Turf channel. That Tips for Turf channel, when they did the Neighbors Envy thing, it really threw me in a loop. And I just kind of, you know, was like, oh my God, somebody sent me a video on it or sent me a link to it, and I watched it, and I was like, oh my God, I don't comment on people's videos. I don't do any of that kind of stuff because it's not worth my time. You're never going to change people's opinions. Just like all the thousands and thousands of subscribers of all these guys who love their lawn care guy and stick by what they say and trust him as gospel, even though they're getting fed a bunch of BS. I will never be able to convince those viewers. I'm only hoping that a new viewer, somebody interested in maybe learning a little something new, is going to come across my channel and learn something. And we're going to get in that in about 30 seconds. I'm going to finish up my discussion about tenacity. I'm getting ready to do my second application of tenacity on my Kentucky bluegrass to get rid of my bent grass. But on top of that, I'm starting already to work on POA control for the next forever. I have a program that I'm getting ready to start. I'm going to show people. I don't recommend a tenacity program for people who have ryegrass because you're going to have a lot of bleaching. Kentucky bluegrass, I don't get a lot of bleaching. In fact, when I did my first app, you're going to see the grass is pretty much totally recovered. But what that is that's the bent grass kind of coming out and going, oh, okay, you got me. And then what's going to happen in about a week is it's going to start coming back. It's going to start showing again. And it's going to say, aha, you didn't get me. And it's going to be like, oh my God. So I'm going to be doing three-week applications of tenacity on the Kentucky bluegrass to help kill that. And then I'm going to start my pre-emergent program, because that's going to put me into September. And then I'm going to start my pre-emergent program for POA control over the winter, because in Western Washington, in just Washington, Oregon in general, POA is just a way of life. So that's that. I'm going to go ahead and take a little drink here of my drink so I can move on to starting to talk about the new direction. So starting out, things are going to be a little different going into the future. The way I look at lawn care has really started to change. It's not because I suddenly stopped believing in fertilizer, and it's not because I think every lawn product is garbage, and definitely not because I think I know everything. Actually, it's almost the opposite. The more I study turfgrass science, soil science, plant physiology, and the relationship between the plant, the roots, and the soil and the microorganisms, the more questions I find myself asking. And probably the biggest question I ask is why? Why am I putting this product on my lawn? What exactly is it doing? What ingredient is creating the response? What biological or chemical process is actually taking place? And maybe most importantly, what problem am I trying to solve? Because if I can't identify the problem, why am I buying a product to fix it? That idea is going to become a major part of what I want me and my McLean to be all about going forward. I don't just want to tell you what I put on my lawn. I want you to understand why I'm putting it down, and why I use things I do, and why I talk about the things I talk about. And I want us to understand together what happens after it gets there. So think of today's live as an introduction. We're going to cover a lot of subjects, but we're not going to completely dissect every one of them today, because each one of these subjects can become its own short, its own video, and eventually its own live. So today we're building the foundation, and everything starts with one principle. Understand the mechanism before you buy the product. So the first point I want to make, what problem are we actually trying to solve? This is probably the biggest change in the way I think about lawn care. Before you try correcting something, identify the problem. That sounds ridiculously simple, but think about it in a way lawn products and marketed. You need phosphorus for roots. You need potassium for stress. You need amino acids. You need humic acid. You need fulvic acid. The big thing, you need microbes. You need to feed the microbes. You need molasses to feed the microbes. You need a wetting agent. You need another micronutrient package. And pretty soon, we've got 12 different products sitting on the garage shelf. I want to reverse that entire thought process. Instead of starting with the products, start with the problem. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They just say, this guy's got green grass and he's putting this on. That's what I'm going to use to fix it. So do I actually have a phosphorus deficiency? Do I actually have a potassium deficiency? Is potassium actually limiting my turf? Do I have a water repellent problem that requires a wetting agent? Do I have evidence that my turf is lacking whatever this particular product supposedly provides? Because if the problem doesn't exist, what exactly are we trying to correct? That's going to be one of the major themes of the series. Diagnose first, treat second. So next, we're going to talk about nitrogen. And, let's understand what you're actually applying. This whole conversation originally started because I had a really simple question about urea. And if I'm using 4600 urea and I dissolve it in water and spray it, am I somehow changing the amount of nitrogen? No, I'm not. Actually, I'm putting it down more evenly. But 1 pound of nitrogen, 4600 urea, contains 0.46 pounds of actual nitrogen. If I spread that pound dry over 1,000 square feet, I've applied 0.46 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000. If I dissolve that exact same pound in water and spray it over 1,000 square feet, I've still applied 0.46 pounds of nitrogen. The water is simply the carrier. That sounds basic. But understanding something that basic changes the way you look at fertilizer and read the labels. What actually makes turf dark green? People love that dark green lawn, and there are plenty of products marketed specifically around creating that appearance. But instead of looking at the fancy name on the front of the bottle, turn the bottle around. What's actually in it? Nitrogen plays a major role in turf growth, protein production, and chlorophyll. Iron is involved in chlorophyll formation and can produce a deeper, darker green appearance without producing the same growth response you would get from a simple pushing nitrogen. So when you see a product producing a dramatic dark green response, ask yourself, which ingredient is actually doing that? Maybe that product has 6 ingredients. Maybe it has 10, maybe it has 15. That doesn't mean all 15 ingredients are creating that response you're seeing. That's the difference between marketing and mechanism. Let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and throw some mowing on here. I'm just gonna go over some more points here. So my nitrogen and iron experiment. I demonstrated on my own lawn. I applied over 1/2 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet using urea, along with 8 ounces per 1,000 square feet of ferrous sulfate, and it got dark. Let me show you the video here. Oh, here we go. I mean, almost black. But I also screwed something up. I sprayed early in the morning while there was still dew on the turf. Then when I walked through it, guess what? Footprints. See them right there on the screen. Those are footprints from me walking on after I applied the nitrogen and the iron. And that actually became one of the best teaching points from the entire application, because understanding the chemistry isn't enough. Application techniques matter, timing matters, coverage matters. You know, I just was doing that test there just to apply a little bit too much iron so the putting green would turn black. So, you know, the leaf moisture matters, application rates matter, environmental conditions matter. Knowing what you're applying is more important. Knowing how you're applying it is just as important. Okay, moving on. We're gonna go underground now. So let's go underground. Let's talk about what's going on down there. This is where my thinking has probably changed the most, because once you start learning what's happening underneath that turf, you realize the plant soil system is already doing an incredible amount of work. And there's one term we're going to use throughout this series. It's a word I had to learn myself because I just didn't know what it meant. Root exudates. Yep, exudates. I don't know. Did you know what it means? Do you know what it means? I didn't know. I was like, that's a scientific word. But let's make it really simple. When you hear root exudates, just think about like a natural root secretion. You know, kind of what the roots are putting out. The roots release compounds into the soils surrounding them. And those compounds can dramatically influence what's happening around those roots. Let me put my mow back on. That's just a sped up mow too. So what exactly are root exudates? The plant captures energy from the sunlight through photosynthesis. It uses the energy and creates carbon compounds. Some of the carbon eventually gets sent below ground, and some of those compounds are released from the roots into the surrounding soil. We're talking about things like sugars, amino acids, organic acids, proteins, peptides, phenolic compounds, signaling molecules, vitamins, and other small organic compounds. So mucilage is that sticky gel-like material associated with roots and root tips. And there are enzymes and proteins operating around the root soil interface as well. Now think about this for a second. The plant had to capture energy, create these compounds, move the resources underground, then release some of those compounds around its roots. Why would a plant spend resources doing that? Because the root isn't simply a straw sucking up fertilizer out of the ground. It's interacting with an eternal ecosystem. So this puts us in the rhizosphere. And here's another science word, rhizosphere. And, you know, I can't say a lot of these words, so I'm going to butcher them, whatever. Again, don't let the words make it complicated. The rhizosphere is basically the highly active zone of soil immediately surrounding a living root. Think of it like an underground city. You've got roots, minerals, water, and bacteria. Where are we at in the mow there? Oh, we're on the putting green. All right, I just don't want to leave that up too long. You know, we got bacteria, fungi, organic compounds, nutrients, chemical reactions, you know, all these things, and they are consistently interacting. The root isn't living by itself. It's surrounded by an entire biological community. So like I said, I'm just trying to make some general bullet points here of what we're going to talk about. We're going to get into all these things more in detail, you know, point by point. You know, we're on point number 8 right now. Meet the underground workforce. Now let's talk about microbes, because microbes aren't just one thing. They're enormous numbers of different microorganisms performing different functions. Let's see here. Got a little slide for that. We can talk about bacteria groups that include organisms within, such as whatever. We can talk about fungi. We can talk about mycorrhizal fungi. There's a relationship certain plants form within them. Some microorganisms participate in the decomposition. Some participate in nutrient cycling. Some produce enzymes involved in transforming organic compounds. Some produce organic acids and other compounds that can influence nutrients availability. Some microorganisms interact in ways very close with the root, and certain fungal associations can effectively increase the volume soil exposed for water. So when somebody says microbes makes nutrients available, that's useful shorthand, but the real story is much more interesting. The entire biological community doing many different jobs while interacting with a living plant. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop right there, because I have a whole bunch of these things, but yeah, I have a typed out script for it, because, you know, there's so much information, there's so many things we need to learn and talk about. You know, I'm just trying to hit the peak points at this point. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of these things, not really in detail, but why I decided to go this direction and start talking about these things. Yeah, I'm going to put together some information. It's going to be in script form, because you know what? I am not going to be able to remember all this stuff. Remember, I have a job. I work, you know, 5 days a week, 10 hours a day. And, you know, then I got to mow my lawn, you know, every few days. You know, on the weekends, I have stuff going on family-wise. You know, we have our grandson that we take care of on Saturdays. You know, Sunday is really my only day, and that's why I do my lives. I spend half my morning, you know, getting prepared to do the live and all that kind of stuff. And then I set everything up, you know, and, you know, it's what I like to do. So, it's really weird. I don't know how am I showing one thing and the screen is showing another? Hold on here. I'm confused. I wonder if I got something crossed up because, sorry, now I'm just more interested in what's going on my screens. I don't even know, maybe the whole YouTube thing has been acting funny. I don't know. It says I have excellent, so I don't know. Things look to be really far delayed. Let me just see if I'm behind or something. Oh yeah, this is way behind. Oh, no wonder. Oh, yeah, my feed there was like, I don't know, back at the beginning where I was talking about blades and things like that. So I don't know, something stopped it, obviously. So this is kind of where I got into the whole, I've had all I can stand, I can't stand no more. You know, the tips for turf guys, I've watched a few of their videos now, and besides having just basic information and throwing out basic stuff that you've probably heard a million times from a million other YouTube channels, they have a lot of videos on neighbor's envy. And that's kind of what got me onto this, because I talked to people about, you know, how we were talking about one of the points there about how nitrogen and iron are basically the only thing that are greening your lawn. And, you know, people promote a lot of fertilizers based on what you can see, okay? And I don't really care. I mean, if you want to buy an $80 bottle or $60 bottle of fertilizer and put it on your lawn and cover 17,000 square feet, great, you know, do that. It's going to make your lawn look great and all that kind of stuff. My only real point is I looked at the ingredients on Neighbor's Envy. I've never really dissected it before, and there's only 2 ingredients on there that are making your lawn green. But what the biggest thing and the biggest thing that I figured out most is the reason why you have the initial application that's higher than the maintenance application. And it didn't even dawn on me until I started thinking about it. And this is why it drives me nuts when people promote a product, they have no clue what they're talking about. Because, you know, the other garbage in that whole, the amino acids and all those sorts of things, the fulvic acid, the humic acid, you know, all those things are just, I mean, if you feel they're doing something to your lawn, fine, I don't care. But they don't give you any visual signs or visual quality signs, like, you know, grass green up and stuff like that. It's just mostly the nitrogen and iron. But the reason why you put down 18 ounces on your first initial is because guess what that does? That's a really heavy dose of nitrogen and iron. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I hit my lawn with a heavy dose of nitrogen and iron only, because that's all I put, and that was kind of my point to over adding right here. That was my point pretty much for this video right here, this part of the video. And I did this before I saw this Neighbor's Envy thing. That just kind of came from all this. And, you know, Jesse's a great guy and he has a lot of really great information on his channel. You know, I really don't care. What I care about is when people are misled into thinking they have to buy a product to get that result. And you don't have to buy that product. If you just added each of these things individually by themselves, all those products, there's 2 that you would add that would show you visible signs that it's doing something to your lawn. So that's why I did this whole video with an over application, because that's all the 18-ounce initial application is doing, is it's hitting your yard hot and heavy right now. And it's going to show you a solid response. It's going to show you a really serious green up response. It's going to show you a really serious green up effect. And I'm just checking to see how many cameras I still got going. Oh, still got some. And, you know, that's kind of the thing that people don't realize. You know, Yard Bra, Jeffrey Mendez, look that name up. Find out about that guy. You know, that's another thing. A lot of people, they don't use their names. I mean, I've mentioned my name before. I'm Chris. I work at FedEx. I have a regular job. I'm not trying to hide anything. I don't really care. But when you're watching a lawn care channel and they don't even say what their name is and they always go by their title, yard bra, I don't know. That's suspicious. Anyways, there's a lot of things about that guy that aren't suspicious. There's a lot of fact about that guy that you really should probably learn about, but that's here nor there. I really don't care. Anyways, he's got his new products out, and I looked at those products, and he's got 3 products. And basically one of those products is a great product because it's iron and nitrogen. It's a great product. It's going to green your lawn, and he applies it like crazy. All the rest of the products that he has you use don't do anything. And this is why I get in and I started, wanting to talk about these different things. Just like in the, points I was trying to make that we're going to get into more detail. And I've talked about this before. When you have enough phosphorus, if you add more phosphorus, it's not doing anything. If you don't have an actual deficiency in phosphorus, your lawn, adding more isn't going to do anything. Just like potassium. I talked about that the other week. This guy was talking about heat stress and, I got to add potassium to help with heat stress. And just like I was talking about in my points, a lot of these nutrients, yes, they provide something for the plant to help create an enzyme or an amino acid or some sort of fungus or bacteria or something, but it basically creates it itself through the enzymes, through the root exudates, and through the microbes. That was why I was showing the graph of the microbes, of the roots. It starts talking about all the different types of microbes. There's billions and billions of microbes in your soil, just in a little small section, like a teaspoon. There's billions of microbes. They all are different. They all have different functions. They all do different things. And, feeding them isn't important. Adding more isn't important. Because what happens when you add more microbes to your soil is, you might increase the population for whatever it's worth. Not that it needs to be released, because you know what? They do all of that on their own. Okay, microbes and turf grass work together. One helps the other. And if the one provides a good environment for the other, then it's going to be a great, circle of love, or whatever you want to say, of greatness, and that's what you want to do. You want to keep the microbes happy. Adding molasses and these sugars and these different fertilizers and these different fulvic acids and amino acids, that's why I listed those things out. And this is where I believe that a lot of these YouTube people come up with this garbage that they're spewing. It takes carbohydrates and sugars to create, great roots, and you need phosphorus for great roots. Fulvic acid, great for microbes. Humic acid, great for microbes. Seaweed, great for roots. All these different things. But the bottom line is what it comes down to is, if you increase your microbe population, what's going to happen is the environment is going to become too overrun with all these different microbes, and eventually what they're trying to process, they're going to run out of. They're not going to have any. My dealio just died. So, let's see here. That camera's not even working. Hold on. Where is my... I wonder if that one's working. So that was a lot about what I was looking to try to get the point across, is that these YouTube channels are just trying to convince you that you need these things to help this environment. We don't need to do anything to help the microbes, because the plant does all that, okay? If the plant has problems producing the environment it needs for the microbes, the plant's going to let you know by showing a deficiency, whether it's phosphorus, whether it's potassium, whether it's you know, any kind of micronutrients, any kind of thing, the plant is going to let you know. Sorry, so my switcher died on me, so I think it overheated. Yeah, because I have it sitting out in the sun. So should probably throw my drone up in the air. So that's where I just believe that all these things come about, is that's why you need to add these things. You don't need to add these things to increase your microbe population. You just don't. And that's what we're going to learn about. That's where the direction I'm going with teaching about all these different things, about these products and all these things you're putting on your lawn. You know, nitrogen is the only real nutrient that your grass pumps through. And because nitrogen is so volatile and so form changing, it's always evolving. And it does have a tendency to just, it's the most utilized nutrient in the plant. And I talked about the ratio, the 4:1:2 ratio, 4 nitrogen, 1 phosphorus, and 2 potassium. Without nitrogen, it's not going to uptake potassium and it's not going to uptake phosphorus. Just like without sulfur, it's not going to take the nitrogen up properly. Okay, you know, all these sorts of things all work hand in hand. But you know what? The plant has its own way of doing things. It can survive on its own by creating, and I use the word talking to, and that's why we're going to kind of go through some of these points I'm talking about how the microbes and the root exudates, you know, are working together to do what they need to do. You know, I say talking to each other because that's the easiest thing to understand. The grass is basically through the roots saying to the microbes, hey, I'm hurting for some phosphorus down here. You know, if you don't have any, you know, can you find some? And there's lots of different ways that phosphorus is solubilized by the different microbes and bacteria and fungus and stuff like that. So those are the things that I want to get into and help people understand, because it's not you adding the phosphorus that's maybe dealing with a deficiency. Because even though you do a soil test and your soil test says that you are low in phosphorus, if you're low in phosphorus and your grass isn't showing a sign that it's low in phosphorus by showing, like, say, purple veins in some of the older blades, you know, I've talked about this before. Potassium, same thing. You know, the older blades starting to brown out and you know, look dead and stuff like that. You know, we talked about how these nutrients, N, P, and K, are mobile, and the plant will steal from the oldest parts of the plant to give to the newest. It's all about supporting growth. So like I said, turf grass is just, it's not that it's necessarily unique, it's just that it has its own way of dealing with what it needs, okay? It, through the soil, through the environment, through everything, it provides for itself, okay? We need to provide a little extra outside help with some nitrogen and some things like that. If we want our grass to look greener, we can do some nitrogen and some iron. But you know, all this other garbage is really just that, it's garbage. If you have a great organic soil, which can be measured through a soil test, and you know, these are some of the things where I believe in soil tests, and it's not that I believe in them, but you know, I'm okay with the soil test. You know, learning about your CEC, learning about your organic material, you know, all those sorts of things, learning about your pH level, you know, they're just kind of baselines, guidelines, and knowledge into knowing what's going on in your soil. And it's not that you really need to do anything about it, but that's going to help you understand what your needs are going to be, what your turf grass needs might be, you know, coming in the future and stuff like that. You know, if you have a low CEC, you know, it's not, your soil is not going to really retain nutrients that well, and it may leach out, it may, you know, volatilize, you know, all those sorts of things, you know. So it's a good thing to know. If you have a high CEC, you know, your soil is going to retain nutrients that much more. If you have a high CEC and you're just dumping a bunch of phosphorus, potassium, and all these different nutrients into it unnecessarily, you're really going to just not be doing good for the rest of the soil, for the environment around it, for the runoff, for the leaching, all those sorts of things. It's not a positive thing. So it kind of comes back to, if you don't need it, don't add it. Okay? If you're not showing signs of deficiencies, don't add it. Don't listen to these guys that are telling you that you got to do this program because look at my lawn, this is it. Because that's a bad following type fallacy to follow. Don't follow somebody. Do something because you understand what it's doing and why it's doing. If you're just adding a product because somebody tells you, hey, this product is great and it makes your lawn look great, well, you need to understand why it's making your lawn look great. It is my key point here. Look into what is actually making my lawn look great. Those sorts of things. Yeah, I feel like my one screen is just like, sorry, I have a whole new thing going on here. Oh, it is. It's behind too. Yeah, so I'm really just trying to understand what's going on with these screens. Sorry. I just wanted to. I'm mostly experimenting with a lot of this stuff. Sorry. Why is it not? Oh, I see what happened. Okay, sorry. I'm just learning my new YouTube settings a little bit more too. And this is the other thing too. So my horizontal, view is one view, and then now my vertical view is a totally different view. And the vertical view actually is a little bit different. It's actually got an actual video running behind it to just kind of fill the screen, because all of my, video is 19 by whatever it is, 16 by 9 or what? Yeah, 16 by 9, and vertical is 9 by 16. So it's hard to fill that whole screen unless you crop out a bunch of stuff. Anyways, so there's a bunch of different things on there just because I was just messing with it when I was setting this whole thing up. Yeah, so my switcher kind of died on me, and this view here died on me. Actually, I think the battery died. Yeah, that's what happened. The battery died. Because I think this one's okay here. Anyways, I'll put it on the drone view. Let's see, the drone has 53%. Let's see if it's gonna fly, because it might be overheated now, because it's been sitting out in the yard. So I'll stop talking about all this stuff. My basic bottom line that I'm trying to get to with people is, I want to just try to help people learn. So if you've seen some of my other videos, let me start recording. I just mowed yesterday. I haven't mowed today. And there's the putting green. So on the right-hand side of the putting green right there, that took the most damage, because a lot of the clippings from my putting green actually get spit out to the sides. So when I mow side to side there, and you can see in my stripes, you can barely see, it kicks them out and over that way, and a lot of bent grass starts growing in those patches there. And there's a lot of bent grass that is basically within my Kentucky bluegrass, especially around my putting green. I mean, it grows in my flower beds over here. And sorry, you'll have to deal with this is a live feed of the drone, so this isn't like a recorded video, so it doesn't come out as as good and clear because it is being fed via Wi-Fi or whatever signal it is. So, and you can see the recovery now. I'm a terrible drone flyer. So you can see here in this front part of the Kentucky bluegrass, there was a lot of brown patches last couple of weeks, and they are finally starting to go away. Like I said, I've been pushing nitrogen along with the tenacity. So today I'm actually going to apply a second round of tenacity, and I'm also going to apply some nitrogen because I'm doing a 1/4 pound of nitrogen every 2 weeks right now, and I'm doing the tenacity application every 3 weeks. So the tenacity is definitely what's going to kind of hurt my grass here. And just kind of give it that, bleached out, dead look. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm really just trying to...
The flight height limit has been reached.
Oh, what is this, on safety mode or something? I don't know why that would be. So here's a little shot of my backyard. It's doing pretty good. It's got that Bermuda patch down there and all that kind of stuff. I can't fly any higher, so what am I? I'm only at 95 feet, so I don't really want to fly over the trees here. Doug's yard across the street is doing pretty good. He had killed a bunch of POA in his yard and had a bunch of bare spots. Those are starting to come out now. And then Kathy's yard around over here, I don't think we can kind of get a shot of her yard. There's Kathy's yard right there. It's in front of the red car there. We did that last year. And then Wilson's yard's looking really great. That's the one in front of it right here. I've been maintaining that. And this is why we talk about doing sprinkler checks. He had some sprinkler issues pop up in his yard. Sorry, I'm trying to go higher and I can't. So on the right-hand side of the screen in Wilson's yard, that's PGR, that's perennial ryegrass. I planted it last year. It's in its second year. And I'm really trying to work with him. He needs some better sprinkler coverage. It's doing all right now, but he needs more sprinklers to cover around the sidewalk area. So I'm trying to work with him on that. But these are just a couple of yards I've been helping these neighbors, have a better, patch of grass. And they came to me and they asked me, hey, if I could help them with having some better grass. Kathy had a lot of POA over there, and we killed hers off, and we're going to put her on a pre-emergent program and get her dialed in that way. Wilson's main front yard there, the part on the, let me see here, let's do this. The part there on the left top corner, we didn't do anything to that. I've just been helping him through a nutrient program and everything like that. And he's been watering it. He doesn't always kind of stay on top of his watering like I ask him to. And it's not his fault. He works and he's busy and stuff like that. But he's had some sprinklers go out and had some brown spots. It's actually coming back. The area on the very left of his yard there, front lawn, was basically brown and dead. He had a sprinkler go out and he didn't notice it until it really started turning brown. So, these are just a couple of, people's yards I'm trying to help out. We have other neighbors that have great yards too, Like I say, it's not really difficult to take care of your yard, but a lot of the stuff that people talk to me about is POA control. How do I control the POA? Let's see here. I don't know if we got any views today. Yeah, too many clouds. So pretty much besides, weed and POA, I'm trying to help them have one type of grass, not a big mix. I'm not a real fan of 3 different types of grass in my lawn. I like having one grass type. Mine's Kentucky bluegrass. And I like doing that. My putting green is bent grass, Pencross bent grass. And it's definitely the, premium putting green grass. So I really like it. I'm liking that I'm able to mow it really low right now. So my yard actually hasn't been watered in the past 2 days because I'm trying to let it starve up and get ready for nitrogen application, hot and heavy, and a tenacity application. And I'm getting ready to do that as soon as I end the live here. Temperatures are mild right now. We're just in the mid 70s, so nothing too terrible. Let's see, I better just go ahead and land this guy. All right. So what I can do is I'm going to take my camera over and let's see if I can, yeah, this is still overheated, so I can't use it yet. Let me go to this guy right here. Yeah. All right, so sorry, just trying to get everything going here. So this is a day's growth on the putting green. Now I can't see what you're seeing, so I'm just trying to kind of give you a visual of the putting green here. I don't use anything other than nitrogen and iron. I don't even spray for weed control on my putting green. I have no weeds, I have no issues. I mean, I can kind of show you the whole thing here. I mean, I basically I've never had weeds or any problem with weeds in my putting green. Never. POA, never. And it's always been cut really short. Now, I have a problem right here. Right here, this is where I always start mowing. And it never fails, no matter how easy I try to take it on the clutch and releasing it. It always spins out right here. And it tears the grass up, puts a skid mark. The rest of the grass, no problem. All of the spots I've been having problems with are doing fairly well. This section over here, I think it's just because of the shade, never really filled in and grew in that great because I started, cutting really short really soon after it had germinated and started growing. So, areas like this right here, it's like the edge and the line. Oh, look at that's a piece of wood. But this is like probably the weakest area of my putting green is this corner over here. And it is definitely because of this tree right here. This tree is definitely creating a little more shade than I probably want right here. This right here is just scalping between the putting green and the Kentucky bluegrass over here. So I just went a little too far when I was mowing because like you can see over here, I'm not going far enough. So this probably, when I mow, it is what it is. And then the Kentucky bluegrass. It's looking pretty good. It's got a nice even cut on it. It's hard for me to see the screen here, so I really can't see what the view is that you have, but and then the other thing you also have to remember, I cut it 6 millimeters, 7 millimeters on my Kentucky bluegrass, and my bent grass is 1.6 millimeters. The lower you cut your lawn, the less green you're going to see out of it. I mean, I feel like this is pretty green here. I don't really have my camera set with any filters or any kind of settings or anything like that to adjust for the brightness and stuff like that. It is what it is, and I don't know, because I think even if I come over here and I do a shot back the other way, I think what you'll notice is, I don't know what you'll notice actually because I can't see the screen. So that's that. Some of the other issues I deal with is my Dahlia's here. I think my camera just went out. Oh, I lost connection. Okay, I think I'm back. Maybe my battery's dying. I can't even see that. Yeah, my battery's almost dead. Anyway, so I guess I won't go around back then, because this is my Sorry, I just moved my mic from... I think this is it. Yeah, there we go. All right, sorry, I just moved my mic from one camera to the other. That was pretty technical. Yeah, so like I said, I lost, my first 30 minutes of my life. So. Yeah, so like I said, I lost, my first 30 minutes of my life, so that's what happens. My phone basically died. Well, since I can't, I don't have the mic added to this different scenes. I can't change scenes. This is the only scene I have it set up on now. So anyways, I'll just go ahead and end the live here. Like I said, I'm always looking into doing new things and start new stuff. And I'm really more into the education part of things. On trying to help people understand what's going on with their lawns and the different types of nutrients they're using. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust my sprinkler here on the side of the house since it's on. It always gets moved because the lawnmower runs over the hose. And I only show pictures of my grass in my yard just to kind of show progress of what I'm doing. I'm not trying to tell people that you need to do these things. This is how you have to do things. I'm trying to teach people how the nutrients work in your yard, how the nutrients are going to help your yard look better, how the nutrients are going to help your yard get greener, those sorts of things. Nitrogen is nitrogen. I'm going to talk about some products. Because there's a lot of products out there that are just scamming you. It's not just some of these liquid products. There's some granular products out there. Lawn care nut, I wouldn't listen to that guy if you paid me. I've just found a lot of his stuff and the things he talks about are just bad. And he sells products and he really rips people off. Selling the double dark fertilizer that he sells is a big scam. It's only the nitrogen in that product that's doing anything to your lawn. The iron is absolutely worthless in that product because no granular iron product is going to provide any green up affect at all, because granular iron will oxidize out within an hour of applying. Sometimes maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, depending on conditions and all sorts of different things. But you're not going to get the green effect like you will with liquid iron. Liquid iron doesn't do that. Liquid iron is the only type of iron you can add to your lawn for green up. Anything else in any product that's giving you any kind of green up, if it's not iron, is going to be nitrogen. Okay? You got to stop believing all this garbage that people are teaching you. Okay? Anyways, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and come back next week probably and have a little more detail on some of the points I made, kind of finish up my points as well, because I'm not trying to kill you guys here. Anyways, thanks for watching.